Sub haters, this is Zooc bringing you a Baneling tutorial, or more of a walkthrough of how I make this particular creature. Now I start off most of my drawings with a very light outline made with either an HB or an F pencil, basically any hard pencil you can find, just to get the basic shapes down and get the contour lines clean and nice and ready for shading. I found the Baneling to be a rather easy creature to draw. It's basically made out of like several armor plates or carapace plates, forelegs, and the poison sacs or the venom sacs that it has on its back, and that's about it. The face is nothing special. The two tusks are really nothing special. Just basic Zerg anatomy, if you want to call it that. Now, I never press down very hard in this stage on the pencil because if you get indentation in the paper, as in a groove, it's very hard to remove afterwards, and it's going to show if you start shading over it. Now I'm just kind of blocking in areas that I'm unsure about, like the mouth and the eye socket. The eye socket is kind of weird for Banelings. I'm basically done with the outline at this point, and I'm gonna grab my 7B pencil soon and start shading with it. I found 7B to be the most versatile pencil because depending on the pressure you apply, you can get very light shading or almost pure black, which is, it's rare with pencils. Pure black is usually obtained with 8B or even 9B or those or charcoal. Charcoal is more commonly used for blacks, but these are graphite, the pencils I have, so I work with what I have. I'm just outlining the claws there, and I'm getting straight to shading the first claw. The claws are my favorite thing to shade because they're very easy. You can basically be very random with them because claws in the real world are full of scratches, full of dents and grooves and whatnot. So you can basically do anything you like with claws. Just let your hand go and work with whatever shapes you see after drawing the chaos of intersecting lines. I'm just shading the dark areas and like the scratches. Now I made a couple of videos with basic light theory, which I'm sure you already know, but it doesn't matter. Now when a light hits a sphere, there are 4 areas to take into account. 1 is direct light, 2 is coarse shadow, 3 is reflected light, and 4 is cast shadow, which you can't see at the moment because I didn't frame my paper properly. So anyway, the deal with this is some people think that the darkest point in a sphere is at the very back of it, which is not true because light will bounce off pretty much any surface and it will light the back of a sphere slightly, barely noticeable, but it's there and it makes a difference. Now the darkest point in a sphere is right where the graphite is reflecting in the lamp because it's a piece of shit. And I have no proper pencils either, but you can get the idea. The darkest point is around the middle. That is a coarse shadow. So the light will pass the sphere and it will reflect back into it from the surface behind it, if there is one. Now the cast shadow is darkest at the point that's closest to the sphere, which is basically right under it. Now I'm drawing a couple of lines just to show you, like, if the light were to be in the form of a light ray, it would basically touch the edges and the cast shadow would extend from where it touches from basically ray 1 to ray 2, where it touches the hard surface under the sphere. Just drew the arrows there to show you the reflected light and how it changes the lighting in the sphere in the back slightly. I'm just darkening up a bit because it was a bit too light. And that's it. Now the way I draw horns is I treat it like a cone, obviously, because it is one. Now when the light hits it in the front, you will have a coarse shadow near the middle back, sort of, and the reflected light will be very small this time because it basically has no surface to reflect off, but it's still good to have it there because it gives it a sense of realism. Now the deal with horns is you can basically go crazy with the lines. As you can see there is no technique to that. I just intersect as many lines as I can and start shading in areas that I think make sense to the human eye, because horns are full of scratches and little holes, and they're bone. Bone has a very irregular structure. Like, bones aren't naturally very shiny and perfect. And that's pretty much it for the horn. It's really very simple to draw. It's no biggie. Just got to remember that where the horn meets the skin, there will be a dark area, because there's pretty much always a groove there in between the skin and the horn. So right here in this drawing, I didn't draw the skin or the socket for the horn, but you'll see in my drawing how it looks like. Now, I made another example of how light hits a irregular surface. Basically, you'll have the lightest point where the light directly hits it, darkest point on the opposite side, and the medium area in between those two. Also, in the back of the object, there will be the core shadow right there, darkest point, and also the rim light. The rim light is basically, if you've ever seen an eclipse, that's the rim light, the light that you can see behind the dark object, which I'll show you here. Like when the light hits, it also glides off, and if a person is sitting over there where the little arrow is, they will see the rim light, which is very thin, but it makes a whole lot of difference. I'm just shading in there, drawing in the core shadow right now. You can see that. There's the core shadow. And apparently I'm still shading because I have nothing better to do. So that's about it. That's like a semi-sphere hit by light. Now, back to the drawing. I'm done with the first horn. I'm just erasing a bit to show where the light hits, and now I'm drawing the skin fold where the claw meets the leg. And at this point, I have no idea what I'm actually doing, like how the joints work in Zerg, because I hate anatomy. I haven't studied anatomy. I know I should, and I'll get to it eventually. But for now, I'm just kind of doing it how I see it. Lots of grooves, lots of basically carapace-like bony legs, and that's how I see Zerg. Just skin over bone or just bone. That's how they mostly are. And that's fun because you can be extremely random, and in the end it still looks good, which is not something that you can say for robots, for example, where you have to be a bit more perfect. Now, I'm doing the face. I don't really know what a Baneling looks like, but I'm just doing what I think makes sense. I just shaded in with a light shade the entire face, and now I'm just darkening up certain areas where I think the indentations are. Right now I'm just drawing the teeth and kind of pondering in between, like what area should be dark on the face. I made a little indentation in the top of its head, and now I'm just darkening the cheeks, and I think that's it for the face. I'm gonna start on the second fang or tusk. And I don't always respect the rules of direct light and core shadow and all that, because being a self-taught drawer, I kind of draw the things that feel good. If it looks good to me and it feels right, then I leave it like that, even though it might not be perfect from the point of view of light and shadow and all that, because drawing is in essence all about light and shadow. Now I'm doing the second leg. I realize it doesn't look anything like the first leg, but I'm kind of going somewhere with this, and I like the way it looks. It looks very knuckle bony and like a turtle sort of skin texture. It just looks nice. Now, I didn't quite frame it correctly because I wanted to get the entire thing in the page, but I ended up drawing the second claw. It goes off the page, so my bad there. But anyway, now I'm working on the carapace. The principle behind I've messed up there with the fucking poison sac, but the principle is just the same as the sphere I showed you. Like, you got a core shadow and you got reflected light and rim light, and it's very simple to draw. Now for the carapace, I just do the same principle as for the claws and the tusks. It's just very irregular. I try to create as many indentations and grooves and scratches as I can without it looking excessive. Now for the second poison sac, I actually got this one right. There you can see the direct light, the lightest point, and where it meets the carapace, there's a very dark indentation. There's no light there. Just drawing the little spikes and their cast shadows. Also, basically each piece of carapace will have a cast shadow on the following one. You can see it clearly, more clearly in this example, where that's where the cast shadow is. And it will have a cast shadow over the poison sac as well, which bends along the contour. It's never straight. I'll be drawing it in a second, I think. After I shade in the... There we go. That's the cast shadow, so it basically it has the same shape as the carapace before it. Makes sense, doesn't it? Just drawing the third leg there with the cast shadow from the first leg, which darkens basically half of it. Now, when you're drawing objects in the back, it's good to not make them as detailed as the objects in the front, because the drawing just gets very cluttered. Like, it's good to have a certain amount of detail, but don't overdo it with like all scratches and all the little bumps and shit, because it's overwhelming. Like, the objects that are most in the front have to have the most details, and the further back you get, the less details you have to worry about. There's the cast shadow from the last piece of carapace over the two poison sacs. I'm drawing the tiny poison sac on its side, and I'm just randomly shading in the body because I don't really know what the texture of a Baneling body is like, but it's probably very irregular, just like most of it. So anyway, that was about it for the Baneling walkthrough. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got something from it. I have no idea why you would even request a tutorial from me, because there are hundreds of them out there that are way better than anything I have to say, but I guess suit yourselves. I cater to my viewers. Anyway, see you next time.